All right, so let's start talking about reflections. Reflections are our second type of transformation that we'll be talking about. So our goal for today is I can reflect points in the coordinate plane and write their locations. And then goal number 2 is I can perform compositions of points in the coordinate plane and write the locations. Okay. Today, we will learn about another type of transformation called reflections. A reflection is a mirror image across a line. Points are reflected over the line. Okay, so if you look right here, I have a line right now, that dashed line right there. That dashed line is the line x equals -1. So this is x equals -1. Now, if I want to reflect over that line, I have to know how far my point is away from that line. So if you count, 1, 2, 3. It's 3 away from the line. So I'm going to go 3 to the right of the line. 1, 2, 3. So now my point is reflected over that line. So you're going to have to know how to draw those lines if I gave you the line y equals 6 or x equals -2, and then reflect over it and write the location of your new point. Okay, before we get started, because you have to know where these lines are, let's talk about them. So as a reminder, let's recall the location of the x-axis and the y-axis. This axis right here, the horizontal axis, that is your x-axis. This axis right here, your vertical axis, that is your y-axis. So sometimes a problem will say reflect the point over the x-axis or reflect the point over the y-axis. So you have to make sure you know which axis is which. Also recall equations of vertical and horizontal lines. Vux Hoi is the mnemonic device to help you remember which is which. So Vux, I want to get a different color here. Vux goes together and so does Hoi. Okay, so Vux stands for vertical lines. Vertical lines, they are undefined. That's talking about their slope. But we don't need slope yet, which is next chapter, but it's nice to know, right? Vertical lines are undefined and they are always x equals. X equals. It's not equals, it's x equals. So I could have gone like this too. All right, Hoi. I bet you can guess what it stands for if you don't know. Hoi stands for horizontal lines. They have a slope of 0. This is a 0. And they are y equals. And once again, I probably could have gone like that. Okay, so once again, let's say that I have the line x equals 2. I need to make sure I graph it correctly. So I say x as in Vux. Vux is vertical, so I'm going to graph a vertical line at x equals 2. All right, let's get into some examples here. So this says reflect triangle ABC over the line y equals 1. Graph and label the new triangle and write the location of the new labeled points. So I'm going to start by graphing y equals 1. Okay, now y equals 1 is not part of the triangle. So you should be graphing it with a dashed line. When you put in solid lines, you're saying that's part of your answer. So I'm going to graph x equals 1. X, Vux, right? Vertical lines. So I'm going to draw a vertical line, a dashed line that is, at x equals 1. Okay, now I'm going to reflect my 3 points of my triangle over that line. So if you count how far A is away, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And A prime is going to end up right here. Do the same thing with B, And then C. C is 2 away, so 2 away, and that's C prime. Now I can connect my 3 points to form my triangle. Remember, I'm not done. I need to write the location of the new labeled points. I forgot to put a prime there, so I can fix that now. A prime's location is 5, 3. B prime's location is 5, negative 2. And C prime's location is 3, negative 2. I can box those because that's my answer. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Reflect the triangle over the y-axis. So I have to know where the y-axis is first. Remember, the x-axis is your horizontal axis and your y-axis is your vertical axis. This y-axis is labeled. It's not going to be labeled for you on the test. So please make sure you know which one's which. And look at that. It made a little arrowhead for me. How beautiful. Okay, so now I'm ready to reflect over the y-axis. C's 1 away, so C prime's 1 away. B's 3 away, so B prime is 3 away. A's 3 away, so A prime is 3 away. Go ahead and connect your 3 points to form your triangle. Write down the location of your points. A prime is at 3, 3. B prime is at 3, negative 2. C prime is at 1, negative 2. It's pretty simple as long as you know where the lines are. All right, go ahead and pause the video and try the next one on your own. Okay, graphing the line y equals negative 1. Hoy. Horizontal. I'm graphing a horizontal line at y equals negative 1. All right, now I'm going to reflect each of my points over it. Okay, so A, if you could look at it in comparison to the line, A is 1, 2, 3, 4 above the line. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 below the line. B is 1 below the line, so I'm going to go 1 above the line, B prime. C is 1 below the line, so I'm going to go 1 above the line. I'm going to connect my points. And there's my triangle. Time to write down the location of each point. A prime is at negative 3, negative 5. B prime is at negative 3, 0. And C prime is at negative 1, 0. Okay, next one. Go ahead and pause the video and try this one on your own too. Reflect triangle ABC over the x-axis. Graph and label the new points and write the location of the new labeled points. All right, x-axis first, so I'm going to put a dashed line on the x-axis. All right, now I'm ready to graph over the x-axis. Please also realize that the x-axis is also the line y equals 0. Okay, I'm going to graph over this line. So right now A is 3 above, so I'm going to go 3 below. That's A prime. B is 2 below. I'm going to go 2 above. That's B prime. C is 2 below, 2 above, C prime. There's my triangle, and now I'm going to write the location of each point. A prime is at negative 3, negative 3. B prime is at negative 3, positive 2. And C prime is at negative 1, positive 2. Okay, next one. Which line has triangle ABC been reflected over? What line has been reflected over? So really what you want to do, it already told you it's a reflection. You can just pick a pair. So I'm going to pick C and C prime. I'm going to draw a line directly in between those two. Now I'm going to check A and A prime. 3 away, 3 away. Good. B, 3 away, 3 away. Good. So that's my correct line. Now I just have to name it. So you have two ways of naming this. You can say that it's the y-axis, which is just a fine answer. If you put that, it's correct. But another acceptable answer is this is a vertical line, vertical vux, x equals. What x value is that going through? 0. So either one's fine. You do not have to have both. All right, go ahead and try the next one. This time, C falls on top of itself. B's 2 away, B prime's 2 away. A is 2 away, A prime's 2 away. That's a vertical line, vux, so x equals, and then look and see what x value it's going through, -1. Which line has triangle ABC been reflected over? Try this one. So this one, using my using my C values, there's a distance of 5 between the two, so I have to go 2.5 over. So when I'm writing the equation of this line, it's a vertical line, so x equals, and then it's going through -1/2. Okay. Now we're going to talk about compositions of functions. A composition is when two or more transformations are applied. For example, this means that you might reflect, then translate a figure. Or it could have been you translate it, then reflect it. All right, let's do this. So it says reflect triangle ABC over the x-axis. So you're going to do that first. Then translate the result along the vector 6, 2. Write the location of the image's labeled point. So the image is the final image. Let's keep that in mind. So let's just get started. We're going to start with reflecting over the x-axis. So notice it's not labeled which one's which. This is the x-axis, so I'm going to put a dashed line here. Now I'm going to graph each of my points over the x-axis. So A is 3 above, I'm going to go 3 below and label that A prime. B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 above, so I'm going to go 5 below. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's B prime. C is 1 above, I'm going 1 below. Now, before you connect these points, my question to you is this triangle going to be my final image? The answer is no, because I still have to translate it. So since it's not my final image, I want to use dashed marks to connect the points of the triangle to show that this is not the answer. Okay, so now it says translate along the vector 6, 2. So I'm going to move it right 6 and up 2. All 3 points. Now you're doing this to the image that you just drew. You're not doing it to the original, otherwise it's just moving the same figure 2 different ways. Okay, so I forgot what it was. Right 6 up 2. I'll start with C prime. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up 1, 2. This is C. It's not C prime. It's C double prime. A, right 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up 1, 2. Here's A double prime. And then finally B prime right here. This is going to be my image, my final image, but we just call it an image. Okay, so that's what it looks like if you reflect it and then translate it. I'm going to write the location of my new points. Remember, my new points are A double prime, B double prime, and C double prime. So make sure you're labeling them correctly. A double prime is at 0, -1. B double prime is at 4, -3. And C double prime is at 5, 1. Okay, let's move on to the next problem. This one says translate triangle ABC along the vector -1, 2, and then reflect the result over the y-axis. So we're going to start with our translation. Translate along the vector -1, 2. So let's do that. We're going to move it left and up. Left 1, up 2. Here's A prime. Left 1, up 2, B prime. Left 1, up 2, C prime. So notice it's still laying on top of that other image, but that's because we didn't move it that far. All right, so let's see what the next direction state. Then reflect over the y-axis. So now I have to find the y-axis. Here's my y-axis. And I'm going to reflect all 3 of my points over that. Remember, you're reflecting A prime, B prime, and C prime. All right, A is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 away from that. So there's my new A double prime. B is 3 away, B double prime. C is 2 away, C double prime. Connect those points, and you can write the location of your new points. A double prime, B double prime, C double prime. A double prime is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 7, 5. B double prime is at 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3, 7. And C double prime is at 2, 3. Notice some points are easier to count in your head than others, or at least estimate where they are. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So this next one here, we have 3 left. This next one here, reflect triangle ABC over the line x equals 1, then reflect that result over the line y equals -1. Write the location of the image labeled points. All right, x equals 1. X, like vux, so vertical at x equals 1. All right, I'm going to reflect over that line. So C is 2 away, C prime is 2 away. B is 3 away, B prime is 3 away. A is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 away. So 7 away, A prime. Did I go too far? Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, I did it right. Okay. So after we're done reflecting over the line x equals 1, it then says that we need to reflect over the line y equals -1. So now I'm going to graph the line y equals -1. Y, horizontal line. I just realized I didn't connect my points with dashed lines, so I'm going to do that right now. Okay. All right, now I'm ready to graph my image, my final triangle. So I'm going to reflect over this green line. It's 2 above, so I'm going to go 2 below. That's C double prime. A is 4 above, so I'm going to go 4 below. That's A double prime. And then B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 above. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 below. And that's B double prime. So there's my image. A double prime, B double prime, C double prime. All right, writing the location of my new points. A double prime is right 8 and down 5. B double prime is right 4 and down 7. And C double prime is right 3 and down 3. And there's my image's points. All right, next one. Reflect the triangle over the x-axis, then over the y-axis, then the x-axis, then the y-axis. I want you to think about this one before we spend too much time doing it. Think about taking the x and flipping this over the x-axis, this triangle right here. First off, where is the x-axis? Right here. So your triangle is going to land right here. Then we're going to flip it over the y-axis. Where's the y-axis? If we flip it over the y-axis, it's now going to be over here. Then if we flip it over the x-axis, it's going to move over here. Y-axis, back on top of itself. So if you think ahead, instead of doing this, you can see that the triangle will land back on top of itself. So this would be a prime, or triangle prime, double prime, triple prime, quadruple prime. So a quadruple prime is -6, 3. B quadruple prime is -2, 5. And C is quadruple prime, -1, 1. If you ended up drawing the whole thing, not a big deal. It just takes a little bit more time if you don't think about it. I read it and it seemed like a lot. Okay, the very last one. Realize when I do this, this is not the only possible answer. There is an infinite amount of correct answers, but there's also an infinite amount of incorrect answers. This says write a series of transformations which would take triangle ABC to triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. So I'm starting with triangle ABC. So first off, I want to ask myself, can I just move it, like right and down? And the answer is no, because if I moved it right 3, down 4, and then I moved B, right 3 and down 4, B is going to end up here, right? So I realize I do need to reflect it before I can make a translation, or I'm going to. I don't have to, but that's what I'm going to do. So I say, okay, where do I want to reflect it? Do I want to reflect it over the x-axis or the y-axis? If I reflect it over the x-axis, A is going to end up over here, and C is going to end up over here, right? And that's not what I want. I want A still over here. So I need to reflect it over the x-axis. Or when I say there's an infinite amount of correct answers, you could have reflected over the line y equals 1, or y equals 2, or y equals -3, or y equals something. I'm picking the x-axis because I find it the easiest. All right, so reflect over that. That's 3, so that's A prime. B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. B prime would end up here. C prime would end up here, and this would be where the transition image is from reflecting it over the x-axis. And if you look, now it just has to be moved or translated as my vocabulary word. So I'm going to start by saying I reflect over the x-axis. All right, now I have to see how I'm going to get point A prime onto this A prime. Realize it's not called a double prime because it's trying to not give away how many moves you have to do it in. Okay, so I'm going to move it to the right, 1, 2, 3, and up 2. So make sure you're using the proper vocab. That's translate along the vector, right 3, up 2. Okay, once again, that's not the only answer, but that's the one I came up with. Okay, you can go ahead and get started.